years, several $100,000 losses. And their vehicles were in disrepair, their facilities were overcrowded, their old tanks, several $100,000 in debt. And they were spending in reserve now. And their reserves from $1.5 million down to $650,000. When I got on the board, I became the chair of their finance committee. We started having monthly finance meetings. We got the budget back in the black. We started paying off the debt, paid down the debt, and eliminated it entirely. And then we embarked on a growth program. And Children's Home, while I was there, grew sevenfold. 7 times as large now as it was in those days, and it's financially strong. We eliminated the debt. We added facilities on both ends of the state and served kids from all over South Dakota. And then I served as executive director there until just at the end of October, when I resigned to campaign full-time. And at the time I left, Children's Home Society had restored their reserves entirely and built facilities. Its fixed assets were worth $22 million. And the reserves that had fallen from $1.5 million to $650,000 were built to an endowment and reserve fund of over $32 million. The Children's Home is now debt-free, no operating debt, not even in a mortgage. So I think it's important as South Dakota and other states face fiscal challenges that you elect a governor that is unafraid of facing fiscal challenges and has the ability to deal with them and has a history of proving that they are indeed fiscal conservatives. And I like to say, I hope you will see what I've done and decide that I am fiscally responsible. South Dakota does face some challenges ahead as the economy has slowed and gone into a significant recession where tax revenues have dropped. That's been true in many other states. At the end of last year, when the Pew Center on the States measured the relative positions of the budgets of all the 50 states, South Dakota had the 4th best budget in the nation, but we still had a deficit. There were states with much deeper deficits, but all experienced this decline in revenue as the economy has slowed. I'm hopeful that our economy is coming out of that. We're starting to see some revenue rebound in our tax collections. We can't count on that. We need to make cuts where necessary. We need to balance the budget without raising taxes, and I'm committed to doing that. I believe South Dakota has a bright future. We have smart kids. We have hardworking families. We have people that care about their neighbors. If you look around the United States, there's no other state that I'd rather live in than South Dakota, because the people here are good people. And so I am proud to have the opportunity to be considered as your candidate. I'm looking forward to hearing your questions and learning what I can from all of you. And again, I thank you for coming tonight and for considering this vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill, for that introduction. I am very grateful to all of you for making Susie and me feel so welcome. In case you're wondering who those 3 menacing-looking people were who just walked in before we got started, they're with my campaign. Actually, this is Steve Jardine in the corner, Mike Krizik here, and this is my youngest son, Pete Heidefrem, in the middle. So, welcome, you guys. It was great to be introduced by Bill Van Gerpen. Bill is not the first Van Gerpen I have served with. He's the 4th. The first was Roland, the second was Louise, the 3rd was Ed, and now I have the privilege of serving with Bill. And I also get to serve with Representative Putnam and Senator Klobuchar, and I can assure you that this district is among the best represented in the state of South Dakota, and you should feel very fortunate about that. For me, this is a lot like coming home, not necessarily just to Springfield, but to this region. I grew up in Miller, and my dad was a lawyer, and I had the privilege, when I got done with school, of being partners with him for 12 years before he died. But my dad believed strongly that every kid in South Dakota needed to understand something about agriculture, and there wasn't any better way to do it than to get out on a farm and actually work hard. And so I had an uncle down here, just south of Mission Hill, named Lawrence Nelson. Lawrence and Nancy, his name is Buster, actually, that's what people know him as. And so I'd come down and spend the summer with Buster and Nancy, and I'd also work there when I was going to the University of South Dakota on the weekends. And then in Miller in the summertime, I'd work for a guy named Ted Jennings, who was sort of known for his Angus cattle up that way. And you know, I just couldn't help but think about those days as I drove down here with Susie, and I saw these gigantic round bales that you guys use now. I don't even know how much they weigh. But when I was down here working for Uncle Buster, we had rectangular bales, remember? And we had to use big old hooks to move them around, sometimes 10 high, a stack out in the field, and it was just so interesting for me to compare a bale of hay in Yankton County versus Han County, where the land is not nearly as rich as you have it down here. Those bales up there weighed half of what they weigh down here. 70 pounds and higher they weigh down here, and up there it was a lot less. And just very interesting lesson about agriculture, the differences in our state. So I'm really happy to be here. We used to summer cattle just on the west side of Lewis and Clark Boy Scout Camp, right? Just as a crow flies, just a few miles from here, not a few, no more than that. But we go over there and fix fence in the early summer and take salt to the cattle, and I just really loved it here. I felt grateful to have the chance to be here. And I wanted to talk about agriculture because the Farm Bureau has got established positions in agriculture, and I've read the positions of your organization, and I share your view about those issues. And I think it's important that we talk about it and find out where the Lieutenant Governor and I stand on those issues, because we really have the right to know where we agree and where we disagree. But first of all, generally about agriculture, there can be no dispute about South Dakota's dependence on agriculture. In South Dakota, we do a lot of fussing about tourism during the legislature. Senator Klobuchar, Representative Putnam, the others, we've even increased the tax just to fund the promotion of tourism. And that total payment toward our gross state product for all of tourism is $2 billion. You know what agriculture means to South Dakota? $22 billion. So as we talk about these issues in agriculture and the effect they have on the state, let's remember that just a 10% increase in the amount of agricultural activity dwarfs even the entire amount of tourism and what that means to South Dakota. That's how important agriculture is. So let's just go through a few quick issues, and let's really explore, if we can tonight, where we stand on these issues. First, let's talk about ethanol. Ethanol is a very important growth industry in South Dakota. I was very proud to represent the farmers up by Freeman and Marion when they were told by POET that the plant they had in mind, that's now known as Millennium, was just too close to the Chancellor plant, and they couldn't build it. So we had to go to court on behalf of those farmers, and we're very proud to win that victory. And now that plant is up and running, known as Millennium, as a part of the Fremar Cooperative. But inside the halls of the legislature, it's very hard to promote ethanol as well. When the Brown-Stuckart administration attempted to increase the tax on ethanol in the 2008 legislative session, we fought back and did everything we could to try to stop them. In fact, the Senate even told them not to increase the tax on ethanol, but the administration went ahead anyway. Wind power is terribly important. Incentives for wind power are crucial for South Dakota's future. Unfortunately, after we passed a wind power incentive bill this session, it was vetoed by the governor, and so it was necessary for us to override that veto, and we did that in both the House and Senate. And fortunately, we now have a meaningful wind power incentive plan in place. Another area of concern is landowners' rights and the respect we have for landowners and those rights. You know, nobody, 5 minutes brought up, nobody has as much respect for the environment as farmers and ranchers, in my opinion. And we need to do everything we can to strengthen those rights as we go forward, and I have very specific ideas about how to do that. Bill's given me the high sign, so I see my 5 minutes are up. We look forward to any questions that you have, and I'm anxious to answer them and find out exactly how you feel about it.